All right, so we've done a couple videos where we're talking about just cool things about the Philippines, right? Interesting facts, bragging rights. I'm very fascinated now.
we've saved some of the best ones.
Okay, great.
For this episode.
Let's do it then.
Okay, this one's actually a little bit strange.
Okay.
The yo-yo, it originally came from the Philippines. Okay, so
Really?
that's an interesting fact.
Okay.
It was a weapon.
It was a weapon?
It was a hunting weapon attached to a 20-foot rope. And then the modern toy yo-yo was invented by a Filipino American.
Okay.
So he kind of took this original
That's fascinating.
20-foot yo-yo.
New things for me to do with my
So
yo-yo
now, every time you see a yo-yo, you'll know, thanks to Filipinos.
So can you take a yo-yo through security at the airport?
Oh yeah.
That's my question.
Now, are you a friend or afraid of snakes?
I like snakes.
You like snakes?
Yeah, I think snakes are cool. Like, I would hold a snake.
What if it were the longest snake in the world?
Is it, well, I would touch it.
Because the Philippines is the home to the longest, snake in the world, the reticulated python.
Okay.
Which also happens to be the world's longest reptile.
That's a wrapping one, right? Pythons?
That's like a constrictor.
Constrictors. That's the wrapping ones.
I'm not a snake expert. We have a ball python. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
28.5 feet. We'll just call it 30. 30-foot
30-foot snake.
I wonder how big around.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's gotta be
be
like a hefty snake.
Let's get to something totally cool.
Okay.
Volcanoes.
Okay, volcanoes are very cool.
I've been on Taal volcano.
Okay.
It's huge. So there's this ancient volcano, like massive, miles and miles and miles across in diameter, and it's a lake.
Okay.
And so we took a boat across the lake to an island, which is another volcano.
In the volcano.
Uh-huh.
Wow, okay.
And we hiked up the mountain, and at the top of the volcano was a little lake. And in the middle of the lake was a little island.
And if it was a volcano.
There was no lava, but they're like hiking up the trail. There was steam coming up in spots from the ground and stuff, and they had like seismic meters and stuff all over the place. Cool. So there's actually a lot of active volcanoes. This one was not like, and there was steam. So
yeah.
Is that considered active?
I don't know. Like would it erupt?
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I think that there's a risk, and there's more and more population around it because it hasn't erupted or hadn't had any big danger for a long time.
Right.
But that's probably where they're monitoring it really closely because it could really cause a lot of devastation.
Wow.
Forgive me for not knowing this specific island and where this happened, but volcano recently erupted, caused a tsunami, and just made major death and destruction. So it's the real deal.
Yeah.
Real deal. So because I was curious, I Googled it.
Okay.
There are 53 active volcanoes in the Philippines.
That's crazy.
So it would be awesome to see a volcano eruption, but like
from a distance.
Yeah, not like if that were by my home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's go travel and see this awesome volcano, not destroy where I live. So
the next volcano is going to make 7,001 islands in the Philippines.
All right. So where did the phrase "the Boonies" come from?
I have to assume the Philippines.
No, we're actually talking about Germany.
Oh, okay.
No, according to science, that Boonies or Boondocks is actually based on the Tagalog word for mountain, Boondock. I have no idea if I'm saying it right.
Okay.
But it entered the North American vernacular in the 1940s, probably because soldiers were stationed in the Philippines during World War II.
Interesting.
The Boondocks, the mountains.
So if someone said in the Boondocks, like in the mountains.
Maybe to Americans it sounded like the Boondocks.
Yeah, and now people say in the Boonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool. I grew up in the Boonies. Not the mountains, though.
If Philippines weren't an answer,
okay.
Where do you think that the karaoke machine was invented?
But excluding the Philippines as an option, the 80s.
That's the time. I was looking for like a place, like I always thought Japan. I thought that
Japan.
It was the Philippines.
Yeah.
Karaoke singing is a very popular pastime in
the Philippines.
It's very popular, and that's where it originated. Back to volcanoes because they're so cool.
Okay.
There's a province called Camiguin.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm pronouncing it perfectly. It has the most number of volcanoes per square kilometer in the world.
Wow.
I don't know how many that is.
Yeah.
But in a square kilometer, that's not very big. And
yeah,
to have the most number of volcanoes.
If somebody told me there are 2 volcanoes within a square kilometer, I'd be like, that's the most in the world.
There's a place called Jellyfish Lake in the Philippines.
Okay.
And it contains 13 million jellyfish.
Wait, in a lake?
Yeah.
In one lake?
So I don't think that's a good lake to swim in.
No. That sounds like a horrifying lake to swim in. I can't even imagine that. Can you see them from the surface?
I don't know how they count them. They've got that's one guy has a job
to count jellyfish. I desperately want to visit the Philippines after all these conversations we're having.
All right. Did you know that the deepest spot in the world is in the Philippines?
Okay.
So it's the Mindanao Trench.
Interesting.
So it's in the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's under the world's ocean by 6.5 miles. That's how deep.
Wow.
So as I've looked at a map, you can see the island and then the shelf and then just this big trench, this drop in the ocean.
That's crazy.
6.5 miles deep. That is crazy.
The megalodon lives down there.
Mm-hmm. I've seen 2 of them.
I'm positive.
If you thought what we've shared so far is amazing, the rest of this episode is just going to boggle your mind. Okay. First, we're going to start with clams. Okay, the clam is kind of a joke, but after clams, then the amazing stuff. Around the world, there are 8 species of giant clams.
Okay.
How many of them are in the Philippines? 7.
I was going to guess 7. I should have said it faster.
Smart.
That's crazy.
So
7 species of giant clams. First of all, I want to know how big is a giant clam.
I don't know.
Not bigger than the megalodon, which is in the trench. What is it called? Mindanao Trench.
But yeah, I guess giant clams. Wow. I don't know where the other one exists. The most densely populated city on the planet it's Manila.
Manila.
It's crazy.
Is the most densely populated. I feel like I would have thought India or Tokyo or something.
Because when you look up populations, they'll say, okay, this city has this population and this city has this population.
Right.
But you also have to look, okay, what square miles or square kilometers are we talking about there?
Right.
And when you actually do the math, Manila,
wow, that's crazy.
It's got a population of 1.6 million in just 24 square miles.
Wow.
So that's 55,000 people per square mile or 43,000 people per square kilometer.
That's insane.
All right, let's talk about another animal.
Okay.
There's this little deer. It's like a mouse deer.
Okay.
It's the smallest hoofed animal.
That's awesome.
And it's in the Philippines.
I have actually heard about the mouse deer.
Have you?
Yeah, it was on an episode of Planet Earth.
Which,
if you haven't noticed,
it's also known as the Pillendock. It's locally known as the Pillendock.
It lives in the Boondocks.
Yeah.
Right?
Earthquakes is something we got to talk about because we talk a lot about volcanoes. Earthquakes, yeah. My team is because I've got team on different islands and whatnot, and so some of them experience some while others don't. Power outages, typhoons. But let's talk about earthquakes. So let me pull up the data here. Okay. So when we're talking, let's start with magnitude 6 to 6.9. So in that range, that's pretty big. It's a decent sized earthquake. I've been in a 6.4 or 5 in Southern California. Okay. And I mean the swimming pool out back was sloshing, chandelier.
That's crazy.
We were fine. But there was damage.
Yeah.
So they have 5 of those a year.
That's crazy. 6 to 6.9.
6 to 6.9. They have 5 a year. Okay, now if you increase the magnitude from 7 to 7.4.
Okay.
So a 7.0 earthquake is 10 times bigger than a 6.0. That's how the Richter scale works. So 7.0 is 10 times bigger.
Wow.
So now we're in the range of 7 to 7.4. And this is over a span of 10 years. They have 7.
Wow.
So 7 large earthquakes like that in a decade.
In 1 decade.
And then if we go on my data here, it says that they have 1 7.75 or higher every decade.
Jeez, that's crazy.
So massive destructive earthquake. They have 1 every decade.
Tons of earthquakes.
Yeah. Okay, now I've got to tell you about the Jeepney.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
going back, I guess, to World War II, all these army Jeeps. So think of old Jeep.
Okay, yeah.
Like from MASH or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Okay.
Well, they took all these Jeeps and stretched them and put benches in the back and turned them into like bus things. And then they've kept them fixed and maintained, and now there's like an army of like 60,000 Jeepneys all around the Philippines.
Really?
And so
they're still that old.
Yeah, and they fit they cram like 18 people into one.
No way.
So you just pay like pennies in pesos. You just pay a small amount of money and you get to cram in with all these people crammed in there. And they're driving around everywhere, and they're painted with bright colors and stickers and
wow, that's cool.
Like hippie buses.
Yeah. That's awesome.
They're everywhere.
That's awesome.
That's a jeepney. I was surprised to learn that the most popular sport in the Philippines is basketball.
Not soccer. I think I just assume everywhere else in the world is soccer.
Yeah. So they're everything that I've seen in the Philippines, and part of the reason why we can communicate so well is Philippines is very Americanized.
Yeah, okay.
And so maybe they love the NBA.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love basketball.
The Philippines Basketball Association, it's the first and oldest league in Asia. It's the second oldest in the whole world next to the NBA.
Yeah, the NBA.
So,
wow, that's cool.
Who knew?
Yeah, go Philippines.
I did not know, but I know now. Okay, now this last one is very interesting.
Okay.
It is the text capital of the world.
As in text messages.
Yeah. Every day, 35 million Filipinos that have their phones are sending 450 million text messages. And according to whoever had this data, that's more than US and Europe combined.
Wow.
Just in the Philippines. So they send more text messages than we do.
Interesting. That's fascinating.
So they like to communicate by text. That WhatsApp, they use WhatsApp a lot too.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't like WhatsApp. I like Voxer, but Voxer is sponsoring this episode. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. What did we miss? Because there's a lot. I mean, there's 7,000 islands, so there's got to be a couple things that we didn't share and include in this episode. So if you'd like to share some comments below, it'll give us a lot of content. We can make another episode like this in the future.